It's time for the Chips and Salsa Show.
The only show about Latinos for Latinos. And did we mention Latinos? It's the Latinos come in all flavors, shapes, and sizes. You don't have to be Latino to enjoy it.
Guess what? It's time for the Chips and Salsa Show. This is actually the Chips and Salsa Show. New Mexico.
Right.
Okay, I hear a voice, so that's why I'm hesitating. But hopefully you can hear me. My name is Alice Lara, and with me in studio is
Zeke Rodriguez.
and I know we're missing Don Jorge. Don Jorge had to work. You know what he's doing? Remember, he's the security guy, so he's getting all ready for the Super Bowl not in Phoenix, actually in Glendale, Arizona. But we have a really good show for you today. What we thought we would do is kind of introduce ourselves, talk about New Mexico politics, some national politics, probably some Arizona stuff as well. But before we get started, a couple little housekeeping details. First of all, a big muchas gracias, thank you to Eric Williamson, who's our engineer, and he's doing it remotely. We're Zooming it, man. So it's working, Eric. Very good.
Thank you, sir.
We appreciate it. And the other part is, if you're watching us, you're probably watching us on Facebook. We're broadcasting live on our Chips and Salsa Show site. What you can do, we would love if you would do this. Please share this to your own profile. Maybe let people know that you might be interested in watching or listening to us about that. If you have any pages that you're an admin of or whatever, share that too. That's how we grow our show and our views. And we really appreciate that, all you chipsters, chipsteros, and everything. Do you know about that, Zeke? Have I told you, people that follow our show, we nickname them chipsters.
That's awesome.
So you're an official chipster.
Chipster. What? All right.
Yeah, and sometimes, like, if you're Latino, I'll call you chipstero or chipstera.
We're in New Mexico. It's Hispanic in New Mexico.
That's right, it's Hispanic. We have to come up with a new term, I think. But I want to kind of introduce you to Zeke. You know, I've been here, I moved back in June, and I really didn't dip into politics because we had so many things going on. But then when I finally did, I went to the Coalition of Conservatives in Action, and I met this guy, and he actually was running for the state legislature in my district, District 37, and still in 37, even though I'm new.
Yep.
And was very impressed with him. Young man, very well spoken, you could tell very confident, and you could tell that he'd been doing this for a little while. So I want to officially introduce Zeke Rodriguez to you, ladies.
Hey, thank you.
And I'm going to interview you kind of a little bit.
Yeah, please.
Tell the audience, you know, I know that you're an Air Force veteran, a daddy, but kind of give us your political resume, if you will.
Okay. Well, I think the main thing to start off with was that my first introduction to politics, and this is kind of a rare story, was medical tyranny. Okay, so when I was in the military, well, I played every sport in the book. So when I got out, I had a lot of injuries and I had some chronic pain, and I was just in a really tough spot. And, you know, to make a long story short, they wanted to give me like 4 or 5 surgeries. I had great insurance. I was working for NASA, so they would have covered whatever. And I just couldn't believe it. At the age of 24, I was supposed to have all these crazy surgeries, some of which had like a 40% success rate. I was hopped up on every pain pill and antidepressant you can think of, because at that time, it was the cool thing to do. Opioids still weren't really that big of a problem yet. If you remember, around what year was it? So I was 24 years old. So it was like around 2009, 2010. You would start to see like warning signs about opioid addiction on billboards and stuff. It was barely so I was dealing with all that, and I couldn't believe it. I was 24. I didn't want these freaking surgeries. I just wanted my life back. I was bedridden, couldn't walk. I was about to lose my job at NASA because I was on short-term disability for like 4 or 5 months already, and they were ready to can my ass. But I got a third opinion from an amazing physical therapist that was like, hey, dude, you don't need all these surgeries. You just have a little bit of a scoliotic curve, and we can work on that with a little bit of stretching, a little bit of strengthening. And so that was my first introduction into politics, was medical tyranny. The medical system didn't care about my health. They didn't care about my future. They didn't care about, all they cared about was the money. And so once I realized that that system was rigged against me, I was already skeptical of religion because I was raised Catholic, so you could probably understand why. Then I was more skeptical of even the government, because if the medical system was not there for my best interest, I had distrust in all authority. So that was my first dump into politics and my distrust of authority. And so fast forward, you know, yeah, please, please.
Did this all happen in the state of New Mexico?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So setting, I got out, I was in the Air Force for 4 years. Most of my time was spent in Italy. I was at a joint task force with the NATO, with NATO and the Italian Air Force, right next to Verona and Milan. I was there for 2 years, came back to Las Cruces, New Mexico, and that's where that started going down.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay. And we have plenty of medical stuff to talk about politically as well.
Yep.
With the continuing story.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how you got introduced and started caring about politics at the tender age of 24.
Yeah.
Because I didn't care about politics at 24.
Yeah.
I didn't do that
Yeah.
until like
Who does?
30s. So in a way, that was probably good.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good for me overall. It was kind of a blessing in disguise. It was a blessing and a curse. Like my wheels started falling off early, so I was forced to take care of my health at a young age. And I actually now have my companies based off of natural healing, continual growth. I've dedicated a good chunk of my life to teaching people how to heal themselves naturally with cannabinoid therapy, but also yoga. And lifestyle is the key to a good, healthy lifestyle, is a good, healthy life. And that's what I try to teach people. And so, yeah, that was my intro into politics. And so I really started to get involved with it when Trump came around. I didn't like Trump at first. I was so brainwashed. I was 10 years in college, 10 freaking years in college. I got 4 degrees. So I had a little bit of Bernie bro mentality. A lot, actually. I was volunteering for some Bernie stuff. I got involved with a lot of the.
Were you a Democrat at that point?
I was a Democrat. I was a Democrat.
Former Democrat too. Admission here.
Yeah, I was a Democrat.
We confess.
It was unheard of to be a Hispanic, especially a darker Hispanic, to be a Republican. Unheard of at that time. It was unheard of. So anyway, I started to get into Trump. I actually heard Alex Jones go on the Joe Rogan podcast. I was a huge Joe Rogan fan, and Alex Jones was saying some crazy stuff. And he talked about Trump's tax plan. And I was into business at that time. I had just opened my business. So I was like, okay, let's take a look at Trump's tax plan. And sure enough, it was badass. So I started to investigate everything else Alex said. I got really into Trump. And within a couple months of that podcast, I registered as a Republican. And
Wow.
I've been all in ever since. I decided, you know what? My business was doing good. I'm going to start dedicating a large portion of my time to helping candidates win. I started helping Yvette Harrell. She was our former congresswoman. She'll be back in there again, Yvette Harrell 2024. And I was volunteering for her campaign. I built a really close relationship with her and her campaign. Started helping other local races with their campaigns. I worked for a media company. So every Republican candidate went through our media company. We did commercials for them. We did podcasts with them. We did speeches with them. So I got to see how it all works. I got to meet all these candidates and all these people in office. So I got a taste for the Republican Party and politics in general at a really high level. I kind of got, work speeded into it. I started running for office. I ran for lieutenant governor last year. It was a fun run, but I didn't know what I was doing. I learned a lot. So I stepped down from that and I decided to run for state representative, which was a much better run, much more effective campaign. Came up short, but I learned a tremendous amount. And so here I am. That's actually where I met Alice. She started volunteering, like she said, with the Coalition of Conservatives in Action. Shout out to the CCIA, amazing group of conservatives here in Las Cruces, because the Republican Party here has some things that we would like to do more of. And that's what CCIA does. We get more involved with the local community. And that's where we met. We became really good friends. She's from Arizona, so right off the bat, we hit it. But beyond that, we actually have some closer ties. Her nephew was my baseball coach growing up. Chris, shout out to Chris Latta, badass. And so we just became friends and we see eye to eye on pretty much everything political. And I've just been honored to be here to hang out with y'all, the Chipsteros or Chipsters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
No, Zeke, you're going to find out. You're going to fall in love with him. He is a welcome addition, especially because I wanted to start at the Chips and Salsa here in New Mexico. I wasn't sure. I thought, man, this guy's the perfect partner to be the co-host because he knows politics. You've been here all your life in Las Cruces, right?
Except for the 4 years in the military, yeah.
Except for the 4 years in the military. And that's good. Thank you for your service. You should do that for sure.
Thank you.
So I'm so excited. This is going to be a really good adventure. It's going to be a little different than Arizona because there's a different dynamic here. Because remember, this is a blue state, a very, very blue state. But that's okay. You know what? You got to figure out what you can do and what you can't do. And I'm still learning. I'm still the novice as far as politics. I know a lot about Arizona, but all things are changing anyway. So it's all good. I can give you a little bit of my political resume for those of you that may not know. I grew up here in Las Cruces, New Mexico, born and raised, graduated from Las Cruces High School, also an Aggie, graduated from NMSU.
Super Las Cruces.
I have a Bachelor of Social Work degree, which I've never really used professionally because there just wasn't money to be made there. But kind of, I took one political science course and then got very involved in it. But never really cared about politics that much. I have to give, in fact, I was an independent when I first registered. Independent. Then I kind of registered Democrat. I thought, well, I guess I'm a Democrat. And mom and dad are Democrats. I didn't pay attention. When you're young, that's why I was impressed, 24 years old.
Yeah.
When you're young, you're too busy working and doing stuff. You don't care about the world. But if you are young and you're listening to that, please pay attention and try to just listen to it. You don't have to do anything. I'm not telling you to give up the world and be political, but just pay attention because it affects your life and you don't even realize. So long story short, but what I really was responsible, I think, for me getting into Republican politics, my father-in-law, very much a staunch Republican from California, Reagan conservative, blah, 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 blah. And he started talking about politics, and I'm like, yeah, that can't be true, okay? But why do we experience that? No, I can't. So what I did, we watched C-SPAN, and it was unfiltered, and we watched Congress in session. And I started looking at those guys. I said, oh my gosh, I'm not a Democrat. I'm a Republican, a very hardcore conservative Republican. And so that's my story about how it became a song.
So it was mostly you seeing Republican congressmen kind of at the soapbox at the floor, and you identified more with what they were saying than the Democrats.
Exactly.
It was that contrasted.
Exactly.
Wow.
And then of course, as you start, really looking at things more and getting some good sources, because you can't just trust anybody. And then Rush Limbaugh came along, and I witnessed Rush. So that's really how it started. So just briefly, because I don't want to take all the time, but so we moved to Arizona. My husband and I moved there in late 80s. And the most exciting job that I got, I was listening to politics, and there was a job for a producer at KFYI, which is the big talk radio station that had Rush Limbaugh and all those. And I got the job as a producer.
Wow.
And it was very cool. My job was basically to book guests. I booked a lot of guests, got to meet a lot of people, a lot of politicians, governors, and everything. And it was awesome and so much fun. And then I went to work, got my second job there. I mean, I did other jobs. I'm just giving you fast forward.
Yeah.
My boss, who's still currently my boss, Stan Barnes, I met him. He was an ex-legislator from Arizona, and he was a lobbyist. And he called me up, said, hey, my assistant's leaving, what do you think? And he offered me a really good deal. And I've been with him since 1999. And I'm still with him, still working part-time. But I have his permission to do the show. So
Wonderful.
We're good. And, I've been very active. When I ran for office, actually. So I was president of the Greater Phoenix Republican Women's Club. I'm very active. Shout out to AZFRW, Arizona Federation of Women. Wow. They're awesome. President Cynthia Salsa, I think she's still president. She does a fantastic job. She's a Latina. How about that, huh? Okay.
Can I just say real quick, Republican women are freaking awesome. What?
Thank you. You can say that.
For real. That's straight up.
That's right. Also, I was a precinct committeeman, which like I told you, kind of a delegate from the ward. And I did that for like over 10, 12 years. I was a secretary of our LD also. And I ran for office. I ran for it's the Special Health, Maricopa Special Health Care District. They changed it now. It's called Valleywise. Basically, it was our county hospital. And there's 5 districts in Maricopa County, and ours was district number 5. And I was recruited to run. I came, and I don't know anything about medical stuff. I don't know nothing. I'm pretty healthy. Whatever. So, well, that's exactly why you need to run, because they need a representative from the community that isn't a doctor has a link, an agenda.
Right.
So I said, well, you know what, that does make sense.
Yeah.
So I ran, and it was a nonpartisan. There were 5 candidates, myself, 2 doctors, and 2 attorneys, and I won with 48% of the vote.
Damn.
I won, and that's because we had a great team, a lot of help, had wonderful support.
You dominated.
My family, friends, political ties, just very lucky. It was a fantastic experience. And I want to take that opportunity. if you have any desire to run for office, and you need a burning desire because it's a lot of hard work, please do so. And if you don't, that's okay too. But please help on a campaign.
Yeah.
Even if you help a little bit, you can learn so much. I know you can attest to this.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my little political resume. I still became active. And then we started the Chips and Salsa show. We actually had another show. We had an organization, Arizona Latinos, Republican Latinos, Arizona Latino Republican Association. And then we had a radio show for that. And then when that kind of went, it's no longer in existence.
Right.
Then we did the Chips and Salsa show because we wanted to prove, bust the myth. Just because you're Latino doesn't mean you're automatically Democrat. And most of you Latinos out there, you're conservative. Some of you just don't know it yet.
Yeah.
And George and I started the show, and also along with Big Ben Sanchez, and Martin Gonzalez. And we did the show. It started in 2014. And then now here, this is a continuation. So that's kind of a quick synopsis, and you'll probably learn more about us as you watch the show. We appreciate you watching the show and telling your friends about us.
Yeah.
Please do so.
Yeah, smash that like button, share this, guys. And thank you, Ellis and Chips and Salsa Arizona, for supporting these amazing people. And you guys have no idea how fortunate you are to have a conservative platform that has such good, strong community, because we have zero in the entire state of New Mexico. We don't have anything even close to what you guys have built. So shout out to you guys, the listeners and the participators. We're honored to be spreading that beautiful energy out here to New Mexico.
And so we're so excited, and with the help of Zeke, and this is going to be a really good show, because our goal, we're going to inform and educate, kind of like the coalition does as well too.
Right.
We're going to bring guests on, and what we want to do is cover stuff that you probably don't see as a New Mexican. Down here, there really isn't talk radio. This is a town of about 115,000 people. So you don't have the talk radio like we do in Phoenix. But that's okay, because now in this digital age, we can bring you a lot of information. And with Zeke's knowledge about the way things work here, it's going to be really, really awesome.
Yeah, I have a deep understanding of how the political game works here, much of which I really can't say publicly, but I will couch things in there, coded, I guess you can say, because we don't want to get censored. We don't want to get shut down. We want to make this a family-friendly show. We want to make this as approachable as possible, because we are, in essence, trying to recruit people to get involved and also bring people together, the Arizonians, the New Mexicans, all of us with the same ideology, with the same passion and love for life, for God and country and Second Amendment. The more we come together, the more we emit that energy out into the ether, to the world, and the more change that we can do. And that's just what I believe. Alice knows that.
Well, and we're going to be as edgy as possible. Because we want to stay on the air. And just to tell you, I mean, we would do the Chips and Salsa show, and anytime we'd have a guest on in Arizona, we'd have a guest on and we'd start talking abortion or about the vax. I mean, and I usually was just asking questions, but the guest could say something, and it wasn't even that controversial. And bam, all of a sudden we started having technical difficulties, audio difficulties.
Yep.
And so, that they're still watching, and I'm sure, we're up on their radar.
Yeah, I think I've done a pretty good, I don't know what it is, but I've gotten away with a lot. Like, my Facebook following is tremendous. And I do go out of my way to embed and code things. I don't say typical words. Like, I do my best to make sure I get my point across. And I don't know if it's because I'm Hispanic or what, but they let me slide a lot. And I get away with, I think most people do. And so, together with what I know, with what Alice knows, we're going to give you guys a good show. And we're going to definitely inform and educate you all on some stuff that both states can identify with and learn from and benefit from, for sure.
And please, if you have suggestions, like I told you last week, you can email or go through Facebook, contact either of us.
Yeah, hit us up.
And my email is so easy. It's Alice Lara, Alice Lara @hotmail.com. It's my original email. It's pretty old and it's still there.
Yep.
But feel free to do that. So let's get into maybe some topics.
Yes.
I'm gonna, New Mexico is just a different animal. I cannot even tell you. I've invited George. So George, you've got to come down, spend some time here, because it's extremely, extremely different. The vibe, the energy, and everything. Now saying that, okay, as a very blue state, I can also say I met some fantastic, great conservatives and Republicans. And they're here. It's like living in South Phoenix, as I did, where you're predominantly Democrat, and it's a struggle. it's a struggle. So I want to start out by asking you the question, because of that and because of the atmosphere, what makes you hopeful? What things that you do you think want to happen in the struggle to bring more conservatism to the state? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that's actually a damn good question, because what gives me a lot of hope is that I know the universal law that for every action, there's an equal to opposite reaction, right? And I do know about Martin Luther King. I think we all do. And he was born and raised in the most oppressive, racist state of his times, Atlanta, Georgia, right? And look at the beauty that came out of Martin Luther King. And so with New Mexico being the worst state in the country, we're actually the closest to Canada. I was talking about this the other day, to Canada, Australia, to all those hardcore oppressed states. We're the closest to any other state in the country here in New Mexico. So considering what MLK went through and all that pressure makes diamonds. I think New Mexico is building that pressure, and like this shows an example of it. Now we're just going to start exploding with the conservative movement. And so just knowing that gives me a lot of hope. I've been born and raised here my whole life, except for the military. This place is super conservative. It really is. You boil it down. These people really do care about family, God, country, community, food, culture. It's just what the Hispanic culture is, or Latino culture is. So that all gives me hope. I think a lot of it is just the fact that this is the most uneducated state in the country, folks. You have to be cognizant of it when you're walking around here and get to know people. A lot of people don't know how to read. Straight up. I'm not trying to bash anybody, but people have a hard time reading. People have a hard time writing. That's just the sad state of our state. You know, in Las Cruces Public Schools, I just learned this too here, where we are, is actually the worst educated school district in this whole state of New Mexico. So thereby you can conclude that we probably have the most uneducated or maleducated people in the entire country right here in America, right here in Las Cruces. So I think the education level has a lot to do with it. And that's why I'm so proud to be here with Alice, because we get this conservative talk show out there, educate people on real issues. I see things turning around.
Well, you know, what you said about education here, I'm going to go back when I was going to school here.
Yeah.
And I remember that actually the teachers would complain because we'd get kids that would move from California and they were always behind. They were always behind us. Now, at that point too, as long as you turned 6 by December, at the end of the year,
Right.
then you could go to first grade. So I started, my birthday's in December. So I started school when I was 5 years old.
Yeah.
And I mean, we had,
That's crazy.
I'm very blessed, had a really good education, went to Las Cruces High School, Bulldog, but it's not the same anymore. And we've learned in our meetings at the coalition, a shout out to Rick Renault. Am I pronouncing his name?
Yeah, Rick. Yep.
Rick has been, man, he's been keeping up with all the public schools and everything. He does a fantastic job. And again, okay, maybe you're working, you don't have the time to do stuff, but you can get a lot of this information. Do they Zoom the?
Yeah, they broadcast it. If you want to go to their city website, you can look at the meetings, the city council.
And they save them, so the archives.
Yeah, you can go back and archive.
So you can go back, because a lot of times I'll come back from a meeting and tell somebody, did you know this was such and such and this was, no, Alice, that's not true. And it was true. It's just they didn't know because they're busy working and the kids go to school, they don't have any problems, so they think that's not the case.
They schedule the school board meetings, the city council meetings, and county commission meetings at like 1 p.m., like 3 p.m. They do it so you purposely can't go because you got to work. And then they don't do it when you get off of work, because then they're just going to get a bunch of people who worked all day pissed off going in there, going to the meeting. So they obviously structure
The
these
terrorists, remember?
Yeah, well, yeah, they don't want the terrorists coming in there. And I have been terrorized in that way. If you want me to get it, I'll get into that real quick.
Please do.
I didn't mean to interject.
Please do. That's what we're here for.
So this is my first introduction into politics, okay? Because I have an 8-year-old daughter now, and I learned that, and I know about critical race theory. I've studied Marxism expressly in college. I don't like it. I came to my own conclusion that Marxism sucks, okay? Then I learned that they're starting to teach our kids critical race theory. So I take it upon myself to go to the school board meeting and tell them that CRT is Marxism. And that's what I did. It's actually on film. And I was there with a bunch of other conservatives and Republicans. And we hung out after the school board meeting. I talked to the college professor who was trying to imbue that CRT philosophy to our students. I told her, like, hey, my main issue is that this is Marxism and it's divisive, and we don't need to be teaching our kids that. They essentially took what I said at the school board meeting and what I talked to the professor about in the hallway in front of everybody. I introduced myself professionally, shook her hand. Hey, my name is Zico Rodriguez. Just want to let you know that CRT is Marxism, and I disagree with that. I'd love to learn more about you and have a professional debate about this, blah, blah, blah. About a few days later, they show up to my business, the Las Cruces Security Police. So most people don't know.
What?
Yeah, we have a Las Cruces Security Police. It is the Gestapo. We already have a Gestapo here. It wasn't Las Cruces Police Department. It was Las Cruces Security Police. Show up to my business and they serve me with paperwork saying that I can no longer go to public schools for a year. I can't get on any public school grounds for a year because I disrupted the classroom environment with what I said. And I have a daughter, so it's basically saying I can't even pick her up from school. It's a problem. So unfortunately for them, I am in business and I therefore have lawyers, and I emailed my lawyer and she pretty much laughed and said, this is extremely unconstitutional and illegal. She wrote up a nastygram, sent it back to the school board president, and one of the school board members, I think it's the one who initiated it, stepped down about a week or two after, and now the school board president and all the school board members come and shake my hand if they see me around. So that was my intro to politics right there.
That's amazing, but explain to me this Las Cruces private police. What the heck is that?
Las Cruces Security Police. It was just some dude with a yellow shirt on, had a badge, had his own vehicle, and I don't really see him around.
That's a real thing.
That's a real, Las Cruces Security Police. That is, they do the bidding, I guess, of the, the Board of Regents at NMSU. I don't even know what their purpose is, but it will.
The NMSU police.
I don't know what they do, but there's Las Cruces Security Police are the ones who served me, and I couldn't go on public school grounds.
That's already
anymore.
A guest or a topic for our show, because that is blowing my mind. See, remember I told you the last show? Almost every day I find something out. I'm like, that just blows my mind. I can't believe it. So you just blew my mind today.
New Mexico, welcome.
You'd have to come up with a thing. Have we explained the cocotazos to you?
No, what's that? I think so.
So George and I are doing the show, and I was on Facebook or something, and somebody was talking about a cocotazo. I'm like, that's a funny word. What does that mean? And George is Puerto Rican. And he said, well, that's kind of like if you do something stupid and you're like, we'll give you a noggin on that, on your noggin, give you a tap on your noggin. That's a cocotazo.
Okay.
That was a stupid thing to do, a cocotazo. So we started giving away awards for it.
Oh.
In fact, every show we have nominations, and we can continue the tradition here if you want.
Let's do it.
Maybe we call it a chanclazo, I don't know.
Chanclazo.
Make it more New Mexican.
Something will come up.
Something like that. And we also have the whole enchilada because we want to do something good and recognize the good as well.
Right,
But every week we'd always have the nominations for cocotazo. And as you can imagine, there were always plenty of nominations to be there. We'd have to make, sometimes we had guests, we'd say, okay, let's vote for who do we think, who takes the challenge. That's our cocotazo thing. So this is gonna, we want to have fun because you can't take the joy out of your life.
No.
That's what the extreme left, I think, where's their joy? Do they have any?
Comedy is not their strong suit. I mean, to be laughed at, not with. But we'll try to keep things as light as we can. I try to pepper in some jokes and just have fun with this, guys. It is fun at the end of the day. If you haven't gotten involved with the Republican Party or any organization, it is a great deal of fun. I mean, just spending time with people like Alice, talking about these issues. It actually, when you're in a room with people who agree with you, who are ideologically you're already lined up with, it leaves the room to be yourself even more, and more creative juices flow, more cool jokes come about, more, it just relieves that tension that you normally have to deal with other people, and it leaves your mind free to think of better things. I don't know, it's hard to explain.
Well, and I like to spar politics, and if you disagree with me, because there's some things that
you do like to,
that are unbelievable. I know.
I've seen her.
And just, convince me then. Convince me, and I have to say it again. I know I said it in the last show, but for those of you that don't know, in New Mexico, you can have an abortion up until birth. Now, I just ran into somebody, was it yesterday or today? I can't even remember. It almost happens every day. And they just couldn't believe it. I said, really? I said, yeah, that's pretty extreme.
You know what's sad is that I'm so desensitized that it's not even a big deal to me that you say that. It's it's been like that here forever. But you guys are so far along in Arizona that that's something that's extreme to you. I'm desensitized to. Of course, I fight against abortion, but for you to say that it's that extreme, it's like, wow, it's just so commonplace here in New Mexico. We've been the haven for abortions for a long time.
It's very pro-life. And then the 40 Days for Life is coming up. A lot of you are familiar with that. We did have a success of Planned Parenthood. I think got shut down.
They did.
And that's a big success. It is.
That's a whole enchilada right there.
Right on. That is a whole enchilada. The problem is, I'm hearing that you can still order that abortion pill.
Yeah.
And I believe it's available at CVS and Walgreens. I
Yep.
feel like I'm advertising for them.
Yeah.
I'm really not, because I mean that's horrible. It's horrible. There's I do want to recommend, if you haven't seen, have you seen the movie Unplanned? I bet you have.
No, I haven't.
You've got to see it. You've got to see
It
it.
sounds sad.
How anybody could see that movie and still not be, at least change their mind a little bit on the pull-off situation if you are on the other side, is amazing. It's a true story, but it's done very well. It's not even like a documentary. They did a really good job producing it as a movie. It's Abby Johnson, I have her name right, and she was working at Planned Parenthood, a true believer, doing all that, and then she has an epiphany. And I'm not going to tell you the rest of the story.
The doctor?
You probably didn't. No, she was just like the manager there. And a lot of you already know the story, but look it up. A lot of times, I think I might even find it free online or something. What we need to do is the coalition needs to probably have that movie and just play that movie. I might even have a copy.
I'm down.
But there's so many things. And my whole thing is just to be informed. I've always been a curious person. And that's probably why I'm conservative too, because just because someone says something, I'm worse than anybody else. Really? Is that true? Well, how's that true? Tell me whatever and all that stuff. Give me some information. And today in this world, you can research and there's so many sources. They're not always good sources, but that happens. Okay, so that was one topic. Let's talk about legislatively what's going on here in New Mexico. The latest with
We can do that. We can do that.
the ex-GOP candidate. What's the latest?
That's not even say his name. He's the guy he shot up some houses, some legislators' houses recently.
He paid someone.
He paid some people to shoot up Democratic legislative houses. I think a couple of county commissioners, city councilmen. I think like the chairman of the House state representatives, Javier Martinez. I mean, I don't agree with that guy whatsoever, but I don't know what you're going to accomplish by doing that. I personally think that it was just done for another agenda. I don't think anybody with any sense would go into that situation in that way. I mean, it was like he was trying to get caught. Like they got him texting all the people exactly what houses to go shoot at, how much money he paid them. I mean, he was just overtly, hey guys, look at me. I'm a Republican. I'm shooting people up. It just doesn't make sense. And more. And then now I hear that they're actually digging more into his campaign finance report, because he did run for state representative as a Republican, but he had to sue the Democratic Party and the Republican Party to be allowed to run as a felon. He was a 7-year felon. They didn't want to let him run, but he sued and won. I don't know how. And I don't know how you're smart enough to win a lawsuit, but not smart enough to know that they're watching your every freaking text. Like, none of this makes sense. They're going through his campaign finance report because they're trying to tie whoever he donated to or whoever donated to him, vice versa, is now an extremist. Yeah, guilt by association. So
that's true.
And then our little radical communist newspaper wouldn't write one article on anything positive or me as a Republican business owner father. Not one article about me. They refused to interview me, but they interviewed my opponent, who's basically a Biden. She can't even string together a freaking sentence. Interviewed her, put her on the front page, and the only thing they put on a Republican is now this one guy, this one Republican, who they say is a far-right extremist Trump supporter. And it's like, come on, guys.
And I have a story about that too. So when that happened, I remember I was reading, it really is, there are two newspapers, Las Cruces Sun News and the Bulletin. Bulletin has more content, but Sun News has been around forever.
Yeah.
I think, who owns it? Isn't it USA Today?
Yeah, USA Today.
So what happened during the campaign, I actually get a text from my nephew, because I think that's after I had that thing.
Yeah, she sends me all this stuff, by the way.
And he said, hey, they interviewed this candidate, okay, but they didn't, there's nothing from Zeke. They said they didn't hear from him or something like that. I said, you know what? I'm sorry, but that doesn't sound like Zeke. He said, but let me find out. I'll find out for you. So you said that you had never even heard from them or something, or email. And okay, as my producer hat was on, and I'm thinking, well, I want to get a hold of somebody, especially today. Back then, we didn't have email. It wasn't as rampant as that.
Mm-hmm.
You have email, you have cell phones, all kinds of different ways. When you're a candidate as well, everything is, you have to register. So I'm the county clerk's officer of Secretary of State office. I'm sure you're saying in New Mexico. There's information about you. There's a way to contact you. So it makes me think, now, I'm not saying this happened, okay?
You can say it.
But it makes you just think, gee, did they really make an effort to get hold of? But then you told me you actually called them and said, hey, I'm available if you want to talk to me.
Yep. And they still wouldn't talk to me. And I've got interviewed by several different radio stations. Other periodicals reached out to me. They got a hold of me. Okay. They got a hold of me, no problem. But this one newspaper, the most popular newspaper theoretically in Las Cruces, couldn't get a hold of me. And they're just it's just super corrupt. I had made a post about them recently. People here hate that newspaper.
I saw it.
It still keeps getting likes. It's going up and up because people cannot
You can
stand
say
it.
what you put on there. That was cool.
Well, I just said it's 2023 and the Sun News still sucks. Have a great day, everyone. Because they do. I mean, they just put that one article about Republicans out that bashes Trump supporters and makes us all look like far-right gun-touting extremists that shoot people up. Meanwhile, they've had candidates like me from here that they could have interviewed, that could have put a positive light, like he's a Trump supporter. He's not a crazy radical gun touter shooting up people. They didn't, though. They just do hardcore communist style propaganda. And I am sick of it. I call it out on social media and everyone loves that post. That's the second time I bash them. And every time I do, it gets hundreds of likes.
Oh, I saw that. And I'm like, boom, boom, boom. And plenty of commentary. Plenty. And that is one of the reasons, too, why we wanted to do this show. Because there needs to be more platforms, formats, more information. Because, both sides is great. In fact, it's better to have both sides because that way, if you are for something, you need to know what you're against.
Free speech.
You need to know what that other person is thinking. And I'm always intrigued. Tell me, why do you think that? What is going on in your head that you think that way, but I think this way? Once in a great while, maybe I might change my mind. It could happen. It has happened. But when it comes to politics, it's very interesting too. My husband and I always have this conversation. So someone just starts following politics and man, they're Trump haters, they hate this and that. And you start asking them questions. And then, I don't know. Has that been your experience too?
Yeah, I don't do too well with, I can talk to people about politics, but for the most part, a lot of it's just educating people. So I come at them with just explanations and teaching them because a lot of people just don't know. If you know about the history of our culture and history of our country, you should be a freaking conservative, okay? It's pretty commonsensical if you understand, this whole country was founded on the fact that they were trying to take our guns. They were taking our land, they were destroying our food supply, they were doing everything, and we just kind of let them do it. It was only until they decided to take our weapons that we started to go to war. And so when you understand that the Second Amendment is there specifically to fight against tyrannical governments, it really changes your perspective. And most people don't know that. They think that the Second Amendment was for hunting or something. No, it was literally there because every freaking government in the world at that time hated our freedom and they were doing everything that they could to take it from us. And we had our guns to make sure they didn't.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe during Revolutionary time before it started, a third of the people were the staunch Tea Party patriots.
Right.
Another third, you really didn't care.
Whatever.
And then the other third was still for Mother England.
Yep, that's
so,
true.
That kind of inspires me too, because 33%, we got more than that.
We see, it feels like we do, and they know that. They've been doing this. It's all cyclical, right, people? The tyrannies try to take over, and the people resist. It's always 5% at the beginning. Nobody wants to be that crazy person.
Oh, he points to me.
Us that, stand up for freedom because nobody wants to make any waves, but eventually people will catch on and we end up taking over. So I'm honored to be at the forefront of the movement. I know that we're in the right direction. This country should be red by now, but we know there's a lot of anomalies, things that are done in the election process that aren't necessarily best suited for the American people or we the people. And that's what we're working on right now together to fix our elections.
And speaking of that, I wouldn't mind, let's give the audience a little New Mexico 101 on elections. Okay, so another mind blower here. You don't need ID when you vote. Okay?
Geez.
So my first experience when I voted in November, I had my little voter card with my updated information and everything. And I knew that they wouldn't require it, but I still wanted to go through the experience of it. By the way, I waited, was it a couple of hours? It was over
Really?
at Sonoma. Maybe it wasn't that long. It was at least an hour. It was cool. I met some friends online and stuff. It doesn't bother me. The weather was fine.
Yeah.
Even if the weather wasn't, I would have waited. So I get up there and I'm all ready and I have my voter registration card and they just scan it and that's it. And yeah, everything looks good. Go ahead and sign. Now, how did they know? Anybody could have had my voter registration card and submitted to them. But then I find out later too, my nephew said, goes, actually, Antalis, you could just walk up and say you're so-and-so and they would have let you vote.
I'm so glad.
And
So
that just, it blows my mind. So we even talked about it. We said, oh, we should, maybe go and use names of relatives that are no longer with us and see what happens. And one of the things the coalition's doing is one of the projects, and shout out to Joan Shearer, who is the head of that committee, we want to help clean up the voter rolls.
Yeah.
Because that is really neat.
there's hundreds of people, and I have the evidence. I have it. I've been meaning to go present it to the county commission, and I'll do what I can to put it online too. But we have hundreds of people that don't get taken off the voter roll every year. So I'm so glad you brought up the no voter ID. Such bullshit. So what's to stop somebody who has a list of the voter roll that hasn't been cleaned out yet, and they can go voting poll to voting poll and just vote? Because I didn't vote with an ID this time. I just told them my address and they gave me a ballot. So you can go. So one person can knock out 20 votes. Easy, so easy. And the local elections come down to 50 votes, 100 votes.
Yeah, a lot of them are very close. And there was a case, remember, I think it was a gentleman in Sunland Park, and he went to vote and said, no, you've already voted. He goes, no, I haven't even been here in the last 2 days or something. And I don't know what finally became of that. Finally was allowed to vote. But it so easily could happen.
You usually get screwed on those ones. So yeah, it's so easy to vote. I mean, the new thing that's coming about, in case you guys don't know, and I hope you guys do know now, like I'm telling you, is Scott Pressler, who's this big time.
I love him.
Yeah.
You've interviewed him on the show.
Yeah, it's Scott Pressler's the man. I've met him before too. He's a big guy. You didn't think he's like 6'5". He's a big dude. So I love that guy. But he's writing a book on how to legally ballot harvest. Okay, you can legally ballot harvest. So enough of this letting the Democrats do it. What they're doing is for the most part in confines with the law. So what we're going to be doing here is doing the same thing, following the legal way to ballot harvest, because I'm tired of seeing my city be destroyed. I just want to make sure that we get the right people in office and that we're on the same playing field. So if that's what they're doing and it's legal, then that's what we're going to do and it's legal too.
We have to fight this war correctly. I'm hoping he comes through New Mexico. And
we're trying. He's kind of expensive.
Well, he was in Phoenix because you know how he goes and he's cleaning up neighborhoods and stuff like that.
Right.
So we happened to be in, and my friend said, "Hey, Scott," and we got him on. And he's just a great guy, and he's got his health back again, right? So
yeah. He was hurting for a second.
Yeah, he wasn't doing too well, bless his heart. But he's just, and what I love about him, there's so many young people. Mm-hmm. Oh, another one too. I'm glad you got him too, because Brandon Stroud.
I don't know who it is.
Okay, he's the one that made the video, the walk away video.
No.
Skate. Oh, you don't. Oh my goodness, I don't believe that. I bet you do. You just can't remember.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he was, if you recall, but in January 6th, all he did is he showed up down there with his phone and he was doing some video, and they got him and they made his life spin a horrid disaster. If you go to my Facebook page, I posted. I think he had one of those extended interviews with Tucker Carlson. Okay. And he tells the whole story. And he basically pled, they wanted to make him a felon. They wanted to charge him big time. So what he did is he pled guilty to misdemeanor just because he didn't want to do all that mess. Anyways, it's a fascinating story.
Wow.
And that guy is awesome. I got to meet him. He came to our AZFRW convention. He spoke. And, there's a lot of young, good energy, and we need to keep finding them.
There is.
It's cool. The older generation like me, we need everybody. Okay, we need everybody. Start talking to your kids about it, and even if they're on the other side, that's okay. Have conversations and have information available to them. That's why I'm so thrilled and excited about the show. We're gonna have some great guests. You've got some fantastic connections. I'm gonna put in a call to some people that I know too. And once we get all the technical difficulties taken care of, then we'll be able to have them, maybe Zoom them in and do whatever we need to do. Okay, so we're down to our last few minutes.
Yeah, this show's gonna be hot. It's gonna be hot.
I want to give you a few minutes, and I want you to talk to the Arizona audience, talk to actually the whole United States, and say, why do you think, because I used to do this with the Arizona show all the time, you say, oh, you may not live in Arizona, but here's why I think you need to listen to this show or whatever. Why do you think people from around the country should watch the New Mexico show? I have some ideas, but I'm sure you have better ones than I do.
Okay, well, yeah, that's a fun one. Well, first of all, we're both border states, and the agenda that they're trying to push has everything to do with keeping that border open. So Southern New Mexico, Southern Arizona have been under globalist attack for decades. I mean, they've been planning on destroying this border for decades. So what they're doing to us down here is what they're going to impart to the rest of the country and the rest of the world. So it's really important, especially New Mexico area, Southern Arizona. These are the areas that are holding America together still. So if we don't come together and band together and start protecting, California's gone. I just consider that gone. But Arizona and New Mexico are still here. And so if we can learn how to counter their operations here and give us support, because we are the weakest link essentially, then we can start helping the rest of the country. So that's my reason why we all got to work together, but primarily start focusing on these borders. So it goes Southern Arizona, Southern New Mexico, Southern Texas. If you'll really notice, those are the places that have been under hyper attack. Positive note, Southern Texas had a slew. They had a red wave. All of their southern border cities got Republican legislators in office. Amazing.
Which is great. And a lot of Democrats in Texas, they support pro-life. They support getting the border in order. Agree totally, ditto to everything you said. And I also even want to go back a little bit more because originally, remember, New Mexico and Arizona were one state, one territory. And so we have kind of a kindred spirit there. We really do. And we're right in the middle, like you say. So here we have conservative Texas, and they're after Arizona too as well. And we're surrounded. And I really, my dream for Chips and Salsa is to have Preston Romero. I told you about the Millennium Muchacho who lives in Sacramento. Mm-hmm. Have him be in California. Martin Gonzalez now lives in Texas. And we have Martin Gonzalez, and we could have a whole Chips and Salsa Southwest show. But it's that important, I think. We're not going to win in 24 hours. This is a battle that's going to take a long time. But you see little bits and pieces and hope. And I will never give up hope. And the biggest thing for me, the strongest thing for me, I know you probably have a similar heritage, but my grandpa, over 100 years ago, he came here from, I think it was Santa Rosalia, Mexico, me and my grandma and the two little kids. And I am going to find that naturalization card. I'm going to show it to you. But right now, my house is still a bunch of boxes for moving.
Oh, yeah.
But we have that heritage. He came here for a reason. He wanted to get away from the way things are trying to turn him. We can't let them down. We cannot let them down. Yeah,
our genetic lineage has a lot to do with who we are and our future as a species. And that's a lot of that is what motivates me. Is I don't want to betray all of my ancestors who fought so hard just to give me the opportunity to sit here in front of you guys and with this awesome person, Alice, to fight for the children, fight for humanity. I will not let them down.
And we have a great life, and we still have a country with a constitution and its freedoms. We feel like our republic has fallen, but you know what? It's okay. We're just going to keep working and keep praying and keep fighting. When I say fighting, I don't mean, she's talking about fighting.
Spiritually fighting.
Spiritual fighting. There's a lot of battles and struggles that we're going to do here on the show.
Yeah.
In fact.
Yeah.
So again, before we close, I just want to remind you, thank you, first of all, muchas gracias for tuning in. Tell your friends about us. If you have any recommendations, maybe say, well, you know what, why don't you just talk about this? Or what if you do a segment on that? Blah, blah, blah. Feel free to let us know about it. Let me know, let Zeke know. We're still planning on our official debut is going to be probably around February 21st. So right around President's Day, right after President's Day. And then we'll have a full-blown show. We'll be here. Most likely it's going to be the hour after the Arizona show. And that will be 2 whole hours. But, we're going to make it easy for you to listen. It's going to be a podcast that will be uploaded to YouTube and Rumble. We just opened the Rumble.
Just to the Rumble.
Very exciting.
So then we can really talk shit.
That's right. So it's really going to be good. And I'm glad that you tuned in today. And I hope that you'll think of doing that. Okay. Any last words, Zeke?
No, yeah. Smash that like button, share this post. I'll be commenting on these posts so you can check me out on my Facebook, follow me on my Facebook. If you really want to hit me up, check out my email, nm as in New Mexico, nmzeke@gmail.com.
Awesome. Well, it's great as always. We'll be back again next Tuesday. Still the plan.
We will.
We'll be here. I don't know if Don Jorge will be, but if not, there might be somebody else on the Arizona end. And we love seeing you guys and talking to you. So please have a wonderful rest of the week. And, my phrase, walk on some more. Alice Lara here with
Zeke Rodriguez.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.
God bless, guys. Thank you. Should we wait?
I don't know if we should. We're still on? He's probably gonna close us out. Okay. You know what, I should have had us on that way. I could see. That's what I meant to do.
Should we send it?